increase in the minimum wage creates winners and losers. The big winners are the workers whose wages increase to the new minimum. Of course, their gain may be reduced by employers who reduce benefits. Reducing benefits, maybe less vacation, making employees pay a greater share of health insurance, allows employers to decrease legally the net compensation to workers. Another winner are workers who earn more than the minimum wage and compete with minimum wage workers. Milton Friedman argued that self-interest motivates the support by labor and trade unions for increases in the minimum wage. The wages of these unions are well above the minimum wage. However, as the minimum wage increases, the wage paid to low-skilled workers increases, thereby increasing the demand for and wages paid to highly skilled workers. The big losers are people who would find employment at the equilibrium wage and cannot find employment at the minimum wage. Economists at the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco attempted to measure the impact of minimum wages on employment and concluded that, quote, a reasonable estimate based on the evidence is that the current minimum wages have directly reduced the number of jobs nationally by about 100,000 to 200,000. Milton Friedman argued that the minimum wage often hurts the very groups that people with good intentions are trying to help. Since the minimum wage affects most directly groups that tend to earn wages at or near the minimum wage, they are affected most directly by the increase in the minimum wage. The people affected most directly are the least skilled workers. For example, around 1995, 79% of the economists polled agreed that, quote, a minimum wage increases unemployment among young and unskilled workers, end quote. Increasing unemployment among unskilled workers is contrary to the goal of helping them achieve a high standard of living. Recently, however, some researchers have questioned whether supply and demand analysis of the labor market is accurate. Supply and demand analysis tends to be accurate when the market is competitive. These researchers argue that the labor market is not competitive because employers have buyer power. The researchers show that the quantity of labor traded does not always decrease when the minimum wage increases and employers have market power. They also present evidence that increases in the minimum wage has a small or negligible effect on employment. The recent research has led to a softening of economists' opinions about the minimum wage. In 2015, the Booth School of Business asked the IGM Economic Experts Panel, quote, if the federal minimum wage is gradually raised to $15 per hour by 2020, the employment rate for low-wage U.S. workers will be substantially lower than it would be under the status quo, end quote. 26% of the experts either strongly agreed or agreed, 38% were uncertain, and 24% disagreed. Economists may be unable to agree on whether minimum wage helps low-wage workers or not, but they are able to agree that better ways exist to help them. Economists tend to agree that the federal earned income tax credit is a better way than the minimum wage to raise the standard of living for low-wage workers. The earned income tax credit affects only people with low incomes. According to the best Congressional Budget Office estimate, just 19% of the $31 billion increase in wages paid if the minimum wage increases from $7.25 to $10.10 would accrue to families with earnings below the poverty level, whereas 29% would accrue to families earning more than 3 times the poverty level.